Hey Gordon, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Shakila. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well today. So we are here today to answer questions about what coaching is. So if you're curious at all, we're hoping this will answer some of your questions and dispel some of the myths you may have about coaching. So a little about myself. My name is Shakila Majid. I'm actually based in New Jersey. I'm a coach that specializes in transitions and sort of people making pivotal life decisions. So I help people navigate cycles of change. So they have clarity around the whole process. So that's my thing in a nutshell. And Gordon, where are you? And what do you do?
Oh, thank you very much. So I'm based just over the border. So I'm in Kingston, Ontario, which is in Canada. And I see clients both virtually across the world, as well as in person in the local area. I am a professional life and well-being coach. And what that means is I work with all sorts of people who are trying to bounce back from some sort of adversity in their life, be that loss or illness or injury or, relationship issues or struggles, work changes, moving countries, you name it. So it's really that working through and recovering from adversity to get back up again.
Yeah, so definitely a range of topics, not limiting ourselves here. And also, just like Gordon, I work with clients across the country and across the globe. Now everything's done virtually. That makes it very easy for us to reach people. So Gordon, I'm going to start with a really simple one. Top of the line, what do coaches do?
What do coaches do? That is the question. So what do coaches do? The first thing that when I get asked that by clients that pops into my head is, the first thing is, we don't give advice. Because you're going to tell me what to do? Absolutely not. That's a number one thing a coach will not be doing. We come from a standpoint that you are the expert in your own lives. You've got all the answers. What we do is we act as a companion on your journey. So a thinking partner, if you want to kind of imagine it like that, so that what you're getting your thoughts and your emotions out into the open, you're verbalizing that, you're putting that out there. And then we're the expert question askers. So we're asking questions about what you're putting out there in front of you for you to see and reflect back into yourself that no one might have asked before. So not a family member or a close friend, you might never have asked it for yourself. And the reason we're doing that is we're getting you to think through where that thought process, where those feelings are coming from, and any blocks you might be throwing up for yourself. And then to overcome those blocks or work around them so that you can find your new inspiration, your higher consciousness, your awareness, so that you can always, every time as a coach, move forward as a client. And that in a nutshell is really what we do. And it's just it's a wonderful, unique experience, something that I could try and tell you about, but really just got to do a bit to really know what coaching is all about.
Exactly. You got to actually experience it firsthand to really grasp what's going on.
Absolutely.
So listen, do you have a coach question for me?
I do. Loads of questions today, which is great. So another common one that really comes up when I'm talking with people is, why should I pay for a coach when isn't it kind of the same thing I can get from a close friend or family member?
Well, coaching is definitely not, a coach is not your paid best friend. Listen, your best friend has a vested interest. When they are listening to you talk about your issues, what they're doing at the same time is automatically thinking about how they can solve your issues, how they can make you feel better. They're going to let you vent. They may take you out for a cocktail or two, all of that. They'll give you advice. They have a vested interest in making you feel better right then, right now. Now, what I find as a coach is that you may need more neutral soil to grow. As a coach, I think my job is to serve you. And I will ask questions, I will ask all the questions. I'm not necessarily worried about offending you, unlike your best friend. I want you to think about everything, as you've said, like a 360 view. My job is to serve you. I will ask you all sorts of awkward questions. We're going to work through everything. It's creativity, it's exploration, you know, it's a partnership as well. It's a safe space for all of that. And also as a coach, I'm trained to listen, active listening. I'm trained in active listening. I'm listening to everything you're telling me, but I'm also looking for the things that you are not saying out loud. And often that can tell us more than what's being said. So I mean, that's a huge difference. You know, you need your tribe, you need your friends to support you, but your coach has a slightly different role.
Okay. No, I love that answer. So the coach is really, it's that unique role that you may not have in your life or even know that you need in your life right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
I will say this, Gordon. Another thing that coaches do really well, other than like, you know, holding up that mirror or shining a light in all the dark places, when our clients, you know, have successes and have gains, we celebrate wholeheartedly. That's the fun bit, because we understand how hard our clients have worked to get to that stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Perfect. Do you have a question for me?
I do. Let me see. I'm going to see what has come up here. Oh, how is this different from seeing a therapist?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, that one comes up often as well. There's similarities and there is difference. The main difference is we're not a therapist, and that's important to understand. We each have our roles to play. When you go see a therapist, and it's wonderful, we have so many therapists out there, you go in and they come up from a standpoint where you're not functioning in today's world. You know, something's come up or you're struggling with things and you're really not functioning well and moving forward. So they really examine your past, delve into your past to figure out, you know, are there any traumas there, are there any past experiences, what's gone on in your life before that's influencing how you're functioning today. And often with therapists, depending on what type of therapist they are, they'll try and diagnose what that is and come up with a solution for you to get you more stable, more functioning, and more complete, or are happy with where you are right now in your life. Coaches are quite a bit different from that. We'll talk about your past for context, but context only. But we don't diagnose, and we also don't believe, and this is the most important part, that there's anything wrong with you. You're a product, yes, of all your life's experiences, you know, all the values and beliefs you hold, and everything you've come through, all that wisdom that's brought you to be who you are today. But we come to the standpoint there's nothing wrong with you. You're just who you are right now. And we very much work in the present, always looking forward. So we're always looking forward to how to get you moving forward, and really examining, like I said, to see if there are any blocks that are coming up in the way for you. So that's kind of the crossover in terms of similarities and distance. We all very much, we work in the present, but from different standpoints. The other counter one that comes up with that question is, well, can I see both a coach and a therapist? Absolutely. If you've got something that's very much in the therapeutic realm, actually, if you came to see us first, and we see that, we will often give you options for referrals out to go and talk with a therapist for what they're trained for, and we'll do the coaching part. But yes, you can work with them in tandem, interchangeably. You know, start off with a therapist, swap to a coach, start off with a coach, swap to a therapist. Absolutely. We're all there as a service for your best interests, and that's the really important part. We're all there for your well-being and your health.
Yeah, that whole thing about working in tandem with a therapist. Actually, I think a lot of my clients right now, I work in tandem with them with their therapist. Our sessions are interspersed in between for that very reason. You know, I think that's really important. And I heard an analogy the other day about how therapy differs from coaching, and excuse my French here, but basically what they said was therapy is where you dig up all this shit and coaching is how we take that, make it into compost, and grow something useful and productive out of it. I kind of like that image.
I've heard that one. I love that one. So we're the composters.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so are you ready for another question?
Absolutely, hit me.
All right. Whatever one comes up from my list. So what sorts of types of people generally go to see coaches?
Okay, so my knee-jerk reaction to this is everybody and anybody. You know, as a coach, I want to help everybody. But actually, there's something that came up not too long ago for me. One of my clients was basically told that coaching is for losers.
Oh.
And I did a post of this, and I really want to push back on this. You know, coaching is not just for people in crisis. It truly isn't. And I will say that the majority of my clients are actually super successful people. You know, they have kick-ass careers, they're entrepreneurs, you know, they are doing really well in life. And what they're managing for me is like they're managing cycles of change, or they want change in their world. So they come to me not because, you know, they're completely flailing, but they want to hit it out of the ballpark.
Right.
And they come to me, we talk about it, we're best practice, whatever it is, whatever's going on internally and externally, we work on that, and they do really well. And what tends to happen is that they do really well, they may go away, and then something comes up, they come back. But when a client comes back who's had coaching before, you know, they filled up their toolbox just that little bit more. So every time we deal with a new issue or a new problem or whatever you want to call it, they're starting like that one level higher. They're already moving up. So they're getting optimized, if that's what you want to call it. It's optimization of performance, right?
Right.
That's really important. I really wanted to hammer that home. You do not have to get to DEFCON 4 to come to a coach. And I will also say I've had clients who are so forward looking that they're looking down the line, 2-3 years down the line, when they're, say, they may be empty nesters and they want a complete change of lifestyle, change of geography, you know, change in what they do. And that takes planning. So when they get to that point, no one's scrambling, right?
Yeah.
And another thing with coaching, I think if you've, you know, got your ear to the ground, you'll see this explosion of corporate coaching in, you know, with companies like BetterUp and Coach Hub, where employees have been given this benefit. So, you know, companies are beginning to realize that the well-being of their employees, the growth of their employees, is very much tied to the optimization of the organization's performance. You know, because how you turn up somewhere is how you turn up everywhere, right?
Right.
So, and then that has democratized coaching in a way.
It's fascinating. So all different types of coaching for all different types of people.
Absolutely.
And not just in crisis, but when you're succeeding and you want to move even further forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly not for losers.
Okay, but definitely not for losers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. All right. Do you have a question for me, Shakila?
Actually, you know, now I thought about it, that whole democratization of coaching and how it's evolving and how it's so much more approachable today. People come to me from all walks of life. Could you just fill us in on a little bit how we got there? You know, how we got to today's coaching world?
Oh, yeah, so sure, I'd love to do that. I've got a bit of a history background, so I love history and stories, so that's a wonderful question. So where's coaching come from? Well, it's a fascinating story. There's loads to it, but basically in a nutshell, it really started up in the 1970s and it evolved out of sports psychology. Right, so really the term coach that we go, you're a coach, which team do you coach? You know, sometimes get that, but it did come from the sports, so sports psychology, and it was this idea that performance was based on more than your physical attributes, so more than, you know, your muscles and your body could do, that they're actually just as important was the mental, the psychological component of that. And it was actually what really jump-started that. There was a book about tennis that came out in 1975, actually, by, who was it now? It was Tim Gallwey, and it was called The Inner Game of Tennis, where he really explored that aspect of it, really, that performance of tennis players could really be amped up based on looking at what's going on inside, your thought processes, your emotions, and what mental blocks or barriers are you throwing up to achieving the optimal level of performance. So it really kind of came out of there. it wasn't shortly after that in the 80s it wasn't really a big leap for the corporate world to start and pick it up. And one of the biggest companies was IBM, who picked it up in the 80s through into the 90s, where they realized that a team on, say, a football team is very much the same as a team of employees. And they realized that by coaching employees as whole people in their whole lives, they could optimize the productivity and the performance in the workplace as well. That was a really important part. So really, came from sports into corporate, and then really not a far leap to go into the home. Employees, we're whole people, we have families, we go home, we have partners and all that, and realized that there was value to be added there. And that's really the main growth of what we would call life coaching now, grew from the 90s to where it is today. And especially in the last 5 years, with all the difficulties we've been through, it's exploded exponentially. So really, when you're shopping for a coach now, there is a deep history, decades of history, but there's a lot of choice on the shelf, and that's a wonderful thing, to have choice, to find the coach that fits best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, the whole choice thing, there's definitely been an explosion in that. And I have to be honest, one of the things, people always, I get, it's like, oh, so you're a life coach. It's as if there's like, they're growing on trees. So I guess, differentiating ourselves is super important, and why someone would come to us versus someone down the road, which actually leads me to my next thing, and it's about our ethics, and and our confidentiality, ethics, those sort of things. I know that you and I are both members of the International Coaching Federation. So I tell you what, Gordon, why don't you tell us a little bit about the ethics side of it, and the thing I want to pick up on, which is super important to me, is the confidentiality side of it. So
yeah, sure, yeah, two very good and practical questions. So yeah, when you're shopping for coaches, this could be, important question to ask. There are various international bodies that have set a standard for professional coaching, and that's important, because up to this point, it's been there's a lot of people out there that are coaches, all different varieties, but unless you're part of one of these bodies, there's not a standardized code of ethics to follow. So what ICF does, from our point of view, is it sets a standard for the education you've got to get as a coach to be an ICF member. So what the level it is, how many coaching hours you have to be doing, how many mentor hours you have to do every so many years, to make sure that you're still following best practice in terms of ethics. So that, most importantly, and this is the most important point, that you're doing what's in service of the client, you're doing the best for the client, and you're doing no harm. Like any other mental health professional coaches licensed with these types of bodies are following that. And an important part of that is the confidentiality piece that I know you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's really important to me, because as confidentiality is your right as a client. And when you go see a coach, that needs to be front and center, because part of the coaching process is that you come into a session, and it's, I ask my clients for honesty, transparency, and authenticity. And I can only do that, when they're secure in the knowledge that everything and anything that happens in that coaching vessel is confidential. It's super, super important, I think. And, when you're shopping around, definitely that should be a big thing.
Absolutely. You want to make sure part of what makes coaching work is honesty and trust with your coach. And knowing, like, any other professional in this realm, that whatever's said in that session is privileged, and it's confidential, and it's between you and them. So you can feel you can be yourself, you can be 100% honest. So, you can if you've got some thoughts you've never expressed to anyone else, you can get them out in a safe and trusted space.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. And just to add to that, often, kind of following up with that, if you're looking for, is there some sort of ethical standard or code of confidentiality, often coaches who are following this, there'll be some sort of contract or agreement or letter, something to sign that spells all that out for you as the client and for the coach itself. So that's another good thing to really just look for or to ask for when you're shopping around for the coach that's right for you.
And I will say this, do shop around. You know, coaches these days, you know, some of them, they do have social media presence, they have websites, and there's nothing wrong in reading their posts, seeing if you get a feel for what they're putting out there, their tone, their style, their energy, whatever you want to call it. Do shop around. I think it's really important, which actually leads me to the next thing. Is like our next steps. Now you've decided, like, hey, you know, I'd like to give this a go. So I would say the very next step on that thing, when I've had people ask me, and this is same for me, you know, when I first was exposed to coaching, and I was like, okay, so what do I do? You know, who do I call? Coaches are really approachable people. They like people. That's why they do what they do. And often what you'll see in their social media or on their website is like schedule a session. And I will say this, you know, any coach worth their salt will typically do anything between half an hour to an hour, a complimentary discussion session. It's a session where they will ask you, a coach will ask you about, you know, what you're working towards, all your dreams, all your fears, whatever it is, what your challenges are, what have you tried, you know, and it's going to be a lot of questions and answers in both ways. Because for me personally, the discovery call is what I would call like a fitting session. You know, you both have to fit. And at the end of that conversation as a coach, if I feel that I can, you know, help you achieve your goal, if I can provide some value, then I will then take it the next step and maybe talk about how you can work with me and the sort of packaging and pricing and all those things, you know. But and that's really important. I have to feel that I have to be able to add value, and that you have to feel that I'm the right person for that.
Yes.
And I will say this, there have been moments when a person has come and they've talked about it, and I thought, you know, I get what they want, but I'm not the best person to serve them in this moment. And I will be very honest, I will say that, and sometimes I will refer them to another coach that might be helpful. What do you think of that, Gordon?
No, I follow, you know, very, very much what you just explained to everyone there. It's a great opportunity as a client, if you're curious, because you only get so much from social media and videos. You know, you get websites, you get a flavor. This person, you know, they're speaking to me, they coach around the area I'm looking to coach around, but then you really want that one-on-one Q&A to see, you know, that curiosity to say, you know, how does it work? Is it, you know, is it right for me? Are we a good fit? All those different things. So really, when a lot of coaches offer that, you know, there's nothing to sign up on the first complimentary session or free session.
Yes.
Take advantage of it, reach out, have a session, see firsthand, experience coaching, so you know what it's about. As I said at the beginning, we can explain it, but you've really got to experience it. Yeah. And then ask all those questions you've got, so that you go off either coaching with that person, that's a good fit, or you've been referred to someone else, or you've got all the answers to your questions, you know, and you can pass that on into the world. So it's a really great opportunity. And in coaching, we're all about opportunities.
And also I should say that, you know, no coach should make you feel obligated at the end to sign on. You know, the choice is truly yours. The question I often ask is whether, do you feel ready at this point? Because I do not want to force anybody into coaching, because the reality with coaching is that you have to be ready for it. Yeah. If you're not, it doesn't matter how brilliant a coach is, you're not going to move forward. It's driving from within, because coaching is all about you and never about the coach. And I think that's something important to remember.
Absolutely, and that's in the ethical guidelines there as well. You always lead as a client, the coach follows, right? So yeah, absolutely. Companion on the journey, but you're the one charting your own path, and that's really important.
Just remember that your coach is there to help you move your agenda forward, and that's the most important thing. So if you don't feel you're ready for coaching at the time, that's fine, and if you do, fantastic. You know, you'll then start your coaching journey.
Excellent, right.
Yeah. So
But-
Gordon, I'm aware of the time and I do not want to run over. Are you okay with this? Do you have any other questions you'd like to discuss, or what people can do to take next steps? If you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think just next steps. That's great advice. You know, get online, check everything out, see what it's about, but then, you know, take that next step, shop for your coach, and then don't be afraid to reach out. Shakila and I are just two of many, many coaches out there. And I will say that we'll put our contacts at the end of this video and in the notes as well. If you've got questions for either of us, feel free to reach out. If not, you know, good shopping for coaches, and I wish you well on your journey, everyone.
Yeah, I echo what Gordon says, and I hope you found this helpful. And, you know, let us know. And if there's anything you like to see us talk about going forward, do reach out to us. Other than that, have a good day.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.